Good morning, children.
Good morning,
Good
ma'am.
morning,
Good
ma'am.
morning.
We learned about the composition of blood in our last class. And blood, the main components of blood can be categorized into, Gayatri, which are the two major components, or how can you categorize the components of blood broadly?
Plasma and formed elements.
Plasma and formed elements, and there are different proteins present in plasma, and we learned about three major proteins and their functions. Which are those proteins, Donna?
Fibrinogen,
Fibrinogen, then
globulins, and
albumins, globulins, and fibrinogen. So these are the three major proteins, and we just started with formed elements, and formed elements consist of the different types of cells: red blood cells, white blood cells, and blood platelets. So today we are going to learn about the formed elements in detail. So the formed elements consists of red blood cells, RBC or erythrocytes. Erythro means red, then white blood cells, WBC or leukocytes, white. And platelets, they are irregularly shaped, you call this thrombocytes. These three form the formed elements. So we'll start with the first one, red blood cells, RBC or erythrocytes. As the name suggests, these are red in color because of the presence of the pigment hemoglobin. It's biconcave shape, concave on either side. So such a shape will facilitate it to move easily through narrow blood vessels. They are non-nucleated cells. Even though nucleus is absent, we still call it as a cell. When these red blood cells are formed in the bone marrow, they do have a nucleus. But later, this nucleus will be disappearing. The reason is, or it is an adaptation, or it is meant for facilitating the transport, accommodating more hemoglobin so that more oxygen can be transported. So for that purpose, the nucleus will disappear later. In the beginning, as when they are formed, nucleus will be present, but later they will disappear so that more hemoglobin can be accommodated for the transport of oxygen. No mitochondria, Golgi complex, etc. No other organs which will use up. Like if mitochondria are present, they can utilize the oxygen present. So they don't want to spend the oxygen, and it needs to be transported to different parts of the body. So it is devoid of nucleus and cell organelles like mitochondria, Golgi complex, etc. And the red color, these cells are red color. It's because of the pigment hemoglobin, and it's an iron containing protein. Globin is the protein part, heme is the iron part, hemoglobin. And it's an iron containing protein. This pigment contains iron and a protein. Normal hemoglobin level is between 12 to 16 grams per 100 milliliters of blood. And there can be slight variations in males and females. Count per cubic millimeter, they should be 5 to 5.5 millions of cells. These are formed in the red bone marrow. Average lifespan is 120 days. And once the lifespan is completed, they will be destroyed, or they will be worn out, they'll get damaged. Worn out RBCs are destroyed in spleen. Spleen, you hope you have heard about the organ spleen. Spleen is considered as a graveyard of RBCs because all these worn out or damaged red blood cells are being destroyed in the spleen. So that is about red blood cells. The major characteristics are they are biconcave shape, no nucleus, mitochondria, Golgi complex. They are red in color due to the presence of an iron containing protein. that is hemoglobin, or hemoglobin is the red color pigment present, and the normal level is 12 to 16 grams per 100 milliliters of blood, and the count should be between, for an adult normal person, 5 to 5.5 million should be present in per cubic millimeters of blood. These are formed in the bone marrow. Lifespan is 120 days, and worn out RBCs will be destroyed in the spleen. And the major function is the transport of gases. Now, second one, white blood cells, WBC or leukocytes. This is not just one, we have different types of cells. You can categorize them into two major types, granulocytes and agranulocytes. First of all, we'll see the general characteristics. These are colorless, means no pigment is present, nucleated. So we discussed in the case of RBCs that they are devoid of nucleus, but here nucleus is present. Count is between 6,000 to 8,000 per cubic millimeters of blood. These are formed in the marrow, lymph glands, and even in the spleen. An average lifespan is between 1 to 15 days. They are short-lived. When compared to RBCs, they are very short-lived, because RBCs, their lifespan we said 120 days. Here, range between 1 to 15 days. Function, it's a part of immune system. They play a very important role in defending or in protecting your body from infections. Once again, they are colorless, no pigment. Nuclei are present, and different types of nuclei that we will be learning. Then the count is between 6,000 to 8,000 per cubic millimeters of blood, and these are formed in the bone marrow, lymph glands, spleen, etc. These are short-lived. The lifespan is between 1 to 15 days. They play a very important role, or they are a very important part of immune system. Types of WBC, you can categorize them into granulocytes and agranulocytes. As the name suggests, granulocytes are provided with some granules. You can see different sized granules scattered in their cytoplasm. These are granules of enzymes or proteins. But another set of WBCs, they don't have any such granules. They are agranulocytes. But when these granules of enzymes or proteins are present, you call them as granulocytes. These are of three types. Neutrophils, we even call it as heterophils. 60 to 65% consists of neutrophils. As you can see in the picture, in the purple color, what is given is their nuclei, and all these three types or granulocytes, they are having lobed nuclei. The nucleus is provided with the lobes, and neutrophil, it's multi-lobed. Several lobes will be there for neutrophils. Eosinophil, they are bilobed. The nucleus is bilobed. Basophil, it can be bilobed or trilobed. So here it is shown as bilobed. So these, the one peculiar feature of granulocytes is that their nucleus will be, or their nuclei are lobed structures. And neutrophils, they are considered as the soldiers of our body, because they protect your body from infection. They carry out phagocytosis. Phagocytosis means engulfing foreign particles. So when any foreign particle enters your body, so they will carry out phagocytosis. They will engulf them and protect your body from infection. Now next one, eosinophils or acidophils. 2 to 3% is constituted by eosinophils, but when there is some infection in your body, the concentration or the amount of eosinophils can drastically increase in your blood. They will help to resist infections. They can cause allergic reactions. And third one, basophils, we even call it as cyanophils, and it is between 0.5 to 1%. They secrete histamine, serotonin, heparin, etc., and they cause inflammatory reaction. So, inflammation is a part of your immune system. When your immune system becomes active in response to any foreign particle entering your body, those you have learned in class 9, your immune system will recruit some cells to the affected area, and that is known as inflammation. That recruitment process is known as inflammation. So when there is some foreign particle entering your body and all, so they will secrete some substances and cause inflammatory reactions. Histamine, serotonin, they are substances which cause allergic reactions in your body, and heparin is a anticoagulant which will prevent the clotting of blood, and they can cause even inflammatory, I told you, with the help of these they cause inflammatory reactions. It's a part of your immune system responding to any foreign particle entering your body, and these have got the name neutrophils, eosinophils, basophils, based on how or to what type of dye they respond. Basophils, they get stained by a basic dye, blue color basic dye, basic, alkaline dye. And eosinophils, they get dyed by acid dyes, eosin. Eosin is the name of the dye. So they respond to acid dyes, and neutrophils, as the name suggests, neither alkaline or acidic. They respond to neutral medium. Okay, so you don't have to learn all that. So whatever is given in the textbook only you need to learn. So this was about the different types of granulocytes: neutrophils, eosinophils, and basophils. And all of them are very important in very important part of our immune system. So first one, neutrophils, they carry out phagocytosis. Eosinophils help in resisting infections and cause allergic reactions. Basophils secrete substances like histamine, serotonin, heparin, etc., and cause inflammatory reactions. Now moving on to agranulocytes, and here that granules are absent, and you categorize them in two types: lymphocytes and monocytes. Lymphocytes and monocytes. Lymphocytes constitute 20 to 25%. These are smallest WBC with the largest nucleus. Here the nucleus is spherical shaped. So these are the among the different WBCs, the smallest one with the largest nucleus. And there are two types of lymphocytes: B lymphocytes and T lymphocytes. The functions of these lymphocytes you will be learning next year in class 12. So there are two types of lymphocytes. They also play a very important role in providing immunity. They cause immune responses and secrete antibodies. These antibodies fight against the disease-causing germs or any foreign particle entering our body. Then the second type of agranulocyte is monocytes. This one is the largest WBC, constitutes 6 to 8%. Function is phagocytosis, and as you can see in the picture, its nucleus is kidney shaped. They have got a kidney shaped nucleus, whereas in lymphocytes they have spherical nucleus and kidney shaped nucleus. So if you are asked to name the WBC, the smallest WBC with the largest nucleus, it's a lymphocyte. And they are of two types, B and T lymphocytes, which play a very important role in creating immune responses and secreting antibodies. These antibodies are certain proteins which are released in your body in response to any foreign particle entering our body, and they help in protecting your body from infection. And monocytes, among all the WBCs, monocytes are the largest one, and they carry out phagocytosis, engulfing any foreign particle or disease causing germs entering your body. And there comes the last one, platelets or thrombocytes. They are colorless. These are also non-nucleated cell fragments, and their number is between 1.5 to 3.5 lakhs per cubic millimeter of blood. You might have learned already what is its function in smaller classes. They play a very important role in the clotting of blood, and they are formed in megakaryocytes in the bone marrow. Specialized cells present in the bone marrow, that is megakaryocytes, and there these platelets or thrombocytes are being formed, and their lifespan is just 7 days, and they help in the clotting of blood. So platelets or thrombocytes, they too don't have any pigment, they are also non-nucleated, and the count is between 1.5 to 3.5 lakhs per cubic millimeters of blood, and these are formed in the bone marrow in specialized cells known as megakaryocytes, and their lifespan is 7 days, play a very important role in the clotting of blood. Now let's see how the blood clotting is taking place. The mechanism of blood clotting, and you know that it's a very important process, because it is with the help of this process that a rupture or when there is an injury in your blood vessel, that gets covered or that gets closed to prevent further loss of blood from your body. If clot formation is not taking place, it can result in the loss of heavy loss of blood from your body. But due to the coagulation properties of these thrombocytes, they form with the help of so many other proteins, then calcium, vitamin K. With the help of all these, clot will be formed. They will seal the ruptured blood vessel and prevent further loss of blood from your body. So blood coagulation or blood clotting is a mechanism for homeostasis, that is prevention of blood through injuries, blood loss, and maintains a balance. And not homeostasis, hemostasis, preventing blood loss through injuries. At the site of injury, the following events occur. So blood coagulation means the mechanism by means of which clotting takes place and the loss of blood from the body is prevented. So you call it as hemo. Heme indicates hemoglobin, stas, maintaining a balance. So here the blood loss through whenever any injuries take place. So blood loss or the loss of blood from the body, from the ruptured blood vessel, will be prevented by means of blood. There are different chain of events place at the site of injury. First of all, at the site of injury, the tissues will be there, and there the platelets will assemble. Clumped platelets will be present at the site of the injury, and these platelets will release a protein known as thromboplastin. And thromboplastin forms an enzyme. We call it as thrombokinase or prothrombinase enzyme. And the role of this enzyme is to convert the protein prothrombin to its active form thrombin. Now what the thrombin will do? They will convert another protein, fibrinogen, which is soluble into insoluble fibrin. And these fibrin threads, they'll form a mesh-like network. Fibrin threads, they will form a mesh-like network, and the dead and damaged formed elements will get entangled over there and result in the formation of a clot or coagulum. So you should learn all the entire process. At the site of injury, the platelets assemble. They release a substance known as thromboplastin. And what is the role of thromboplastin? To release the enzyme known as thrombokinase. And this thrombokinase will convert an inactive or prothrombin, a protein which is in the inactive form, to thrombin, the active form, in presence of calcium ions. So once prothrombin is converted to thrombin, the function of thrombin is to convert another protein, that is fibrinogen, that is soluble protein. But to form a clot, insoluble protein is required. So thrombin's role is to convert soluble fibrinogen into insoluble fibrin, and they will form a mesh-like network where all these dead and damaged formed elements will get entangled and result in the formation of a coagulum or clot. Once again, the platelets will release thromboplastin. Thromboplastin releases thrombokinase. Thrombokinase present calcium will catalyze the conversion of prothrombin thrombin, which catalyzes the conversion of soluble fibrinogen into insoluble fibrin. They will form a mesh-like network where the different elements, the formed elements, will get entangled and lead to the formation of a clot. You can see in the picture, so a ruptured vessel, blood is leaking from the blood vessel, but with the help of the activated platelets, they will form an entangled network using fibrin threads. All the formed elements will get trapped over there. They'll form a clot and seal the blood vessel to prevent the further loss of blood from our body. Any doubt?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Before we proceed to blood group, I want to hear from you a summary of what we have covered. One of you tell me about the processes involved in the clotting of blood. Lydia, just start. Once there is a rupture in the blood vessel, what happens?
Lumps, platelets, and
They will release what? They'll release an enzyme. What is the name of that protein or enzyme?
thromboplastin.
Plastin. Donna, continue. Is it thromboplastin? Where is, whom I asked you to repeat? Donna? Donna is not there.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, yes. Continue.
Ma'am, where?
You begin. No problem. You begin from the step. Ruptured, when a blood vessel is ruptured, the platelets will release an enzyme. Yes. Just now I come.
Thrombokinase.
Then is it thrombokinase?
Yes.
Thromboplastin, as she said.
Thrombokinase.
Then what happens?
Then
What is the role of this enzyme released? What is the role of the enzyme? Conversion of
prothrombin and thrombin. Prothrombin to thrombin.
You want to see it once again, or anybody is confident enough to say? Nandana?
Clumped platelets, they release an enzyme known as thromboplastin.
It will further
convert into thrombokinase, which under the presence of calcium, it is converted from prothrombin to thrombin.
It is not getting, it will convert prothrombin to thrombin. It is not getting involved. It's catalyzing the conversion of prothrombin to thrombin. Then, Steffi can continue.
Like the last part.
Michael?
The thrombin will be converted to fibrin.
So she's told that prothrombin will get converted to thrombin. Yes, no, Nandana?
Yes, ma'am.
Then, prothrombin has got converted to thrombin. What is the role of thrombin now? Rijas?
Thrombin react with fibrinogen
and
form fibrin.
Changes it into fibrin. What is the major difference between these two? One is
soluble and insoluble.
Which is insoluble?
Insoluble. Fibrin.
And what is next? Naureen, what is next?
The fibrin forms a network, and the dead and damaged formed elements will be entangled, and a clot is formed.
Okay. That will seal the blood vessel. And whom did I ask in the beginning? Lydia, can you? To Lydia only ask now? Yes, Lydia? Okay, just summarize the whole thing quickly. Half you can say, half Donna will say. When there is an injury or when a blood vessel is ruptured, the platelets over there will release a substance known as
Thrombo.
what you said is correct. What you said is correct. Thrombo. Earlier, what you said? I asked about the enzyme. That is why I asked you to tell thrombokinase. Okay, I asked you the enzyme. Okay, thromboplastin. And what is the role of thromboplastin? What is the role of thromboplastin, Evelyn?
It will be producing thrombokinase.
Thrombokinase. Then, what is the role of thrombokinase, Lydia? It will convert dash to dash.
Prothrombin into
Thrombin. And thrombin will catalyze the conversion of Donna
Fibrinogen to
to
fibrin.
fibrin. And this fibrin is insoluble and they form a mesh-like network where the different formed elements will get trapped or entangled and they'll seal the blood vessel and the blood flow will be stopped. Okay? You want to see the slide again? You want to see the slide of...
Yes, ma'am.
okay. So the platelets will release thromboplastin, it's a protein, but the enzyme released is thrombokinase. And thrombokinase enzyme, so thromboplastin is a protein which will be released and then they will form an enzyme, and this enzyme in presence of calcium ions will convert prothrombin to thrombin, and thrombin will catalyze the conversion of fibrinogen to fibrin, and this fibrin will form a mesh-like network, and all the formed elements and the dead and damaged formed elements in that area will get trapped over there. They'll form a clot and they will seal the blood vessel and prevent further loss of blood from the body. Now we are going to learn about blood groups. Blood groups were discovered by the scientist Karl Landsteiner. He was the one who discovered the different blood groups, and there are two types of blood grouping, ABO blood grouping and also RH blood grouping. ABO blood grouping is based on the presence or absence of two surface antigens. These are the chemicals. Antigens are the chemicals which induce immune response on RBCs, namely A and B. You can see on the top A and B, the first two figures. Just see the first two figures. This is A blood group and B blood group, AB and O blood group. Anyways, the classification and categorization is based on two surface antigens. Antigens which are attached to the surface of the red blood cell. So two types of antigens are there. Antigens means chemicals which will produce some immune response. So the antigens are named as A and B. So based on the type of antigens present, you can categorize into four types of blood groups. In type A, see A antigen is present. Here B antigen is present. When A and B, both antigens are present, it becomes AB. When no antigens are there, it is O blood group. Type A, type B, type AB and type O. These are the four types of blood. Yes.
Can you repeat that once more?
I'll repeat. So blood groups can be, or this grouping of the blood is of two types. One is ABO blood grouping, other one is RH grouping. And ABO blood grouping is based on the presence or absence of two surface antigens. The antigens which are attached to the surface of the red blood cell. So based on its presence and absence, you can categorize four types of blood groups. Type A, where only A antigen is attached to the surface. Type B, the B antigen is attached to the surface. When both are attached, type AB. When both are absent, type O blood group. Similarly, the plasma. So, antigens are attached to the surface of the blood cell, but the plasma contains two antibodies. These are proteins which are produced in response to the antigens, anti-A and anti-B. So, where are the antigens located? Attached to the surface of the red blood cell. And antibodies in the plasma, in the fluid medium of blood, the antibodies are present. And these antibodies are produced in response to the antigens. So, in blood group A, it's having antigen A, but antibody present will be I'll show you. Antigen A reacts with anti-A. Antigen B reacts with anti-B. If the bloods with interactive antigen, so in antigen A, anti-B antibodies are present. Antigen B, anti-A antibodies are present. To be noted, in blood group A, antigen A is present. In blood group A, antigen A is present, but antibodies present are anti-B, not anti-A. It's not anti-A. This can react with anti-A. It can react with anti-A and can cause some complications. So, in antigen A, the antibody present is anti-B. Don't get confused. And in the blood group B, antigen B and anti-A antibodies are present. Okay. Whereas in blood group AB, both antigens are present, but they don't have any of these antibodies. And blood group O, no antigen, neither A nor B, but both antibodies are present. This you should know by heart. Once again, I will repeat. Blood group A. Okay, here I will write. Blood group A. So already there is a chart depicting it. Antigen, antibody. So blood group A, B, AB and O. Okay. And in blood group A, antigen A will be present. But antibody present is anti-B, not A. And in blood group B, antigen present is B. Antibody present is anti-A. And in AB, they don't have any antibodies. So no antibodies are present. But both antigens are present. In O blood group, no antigens, but both antibodies are present. Okay. So just by heart this one. Blood group A. This is not only for the sake of scoring marks. This is some thing which you should know as part of G or general knowledge. This you should know. Okay. And antigen A reacts with anti-A. That is why we don't receive blood from other blood groups. So all that you will be learning on what basis the blood transfusion is done. And antigen B can react with anti-B. Remember, anti, against. So anti-B means it will be against the antigen B. So that won't be normally present. Antigen A and antibody B. Antigen B and antibody A. And in blood group AB, both antigens are there, no antibodies. And in blood group O, both antigens are absent, but both antibodies are present. The naming is based on the antigens. So then I think it will be confused. Are you following? So think that the name of the blood group is based on the antigen. So A blood group, antigen A, B blood group, antigen B, AB blood group, both antigens, O blood group, neither A or B. So that is the naming. Whereas antibodies in blood group A, antigen A is present. So anti B is present, not anti A. When antigen A is present, the antibody will be anti-B. So that no complication between antigen and anti-B. Then in blood group B, antibody present is not anti-B, but anti-A. Okay, Michael? In between sightseeing is going on. Tell me, why waste my energy? Michael can tell me. Tell me the antigens and antibodies present in different blood groups. So first let us start with blood group A. Tell me the antigen and antibody present.
In blood group A,
In blood group A, which is the antigen present?
the antigen present is A.
Antibody?
B.
Anti-B. Okay, Malavika, what about B blood group?
Antigen B is present and antibody A is present.
Okay. Then Naureen, AB blood group?
Antigen A and B and no antibodies.
Okay. O blood group, Steffi?
Both antigens are present. Antibodies are present. Antigens are not present.
Present. And in case if there is a chance for antigen A to combine with antibody A, they'll react. Antigen A and A will react. Antigen B and antibody B will react. That is why we go for blood matching before blood transfusion. And if different blood groups or if we take blood or donate blood without doing this blood group matching, there can be clumping together. If different blood groups are mixed up, the antigen antibody reaction will take place and the blood cells will clump together, and we call it as agglutination. So you will be learning about that in next class. Okay, hope.
Ma'am, what is the main difference between antigen and antibody?
Antigen is anything which will produce an immune response. See, apart from what is given in this blood grouping, simply when you say antigen means any particle which can produce the formation of antibodies. So in response to an antigen, antibodies will be produced. So antigen means it's a chemical which can produce immune response, which can stimulate the formation of antibodies. So in response to antigen, some antibodies are being produced in the plasma. The location of antigen is the surface of the red blood cell, and antibodies are produced in the plasma. And not only these antibodies, so when any foreign particle is entering your body, antibodies will be produced by your white blood cells, and they are considered to be the warriors or soldiers of your body. They fight against infection. But antigen means any particle which stimulate the production of antibodies. Okay, understood?
Yes,
Steffi? Okay, we'll continue next class.